Joining us next is Wendy May. Wendy is an intuitive regenerative purpose coach, a purpose pathlight, conscious leadership consultant, author, speaker, and activist for regenerative purpose. Wendy loves to use the Enneagram in her explorations and teachings and received training in this tool from the Enneagram Institute. She is a Harvard alumni with a graduate business degree from UCLA, and Wendy started on her own purpose path in 2015 after leaving a 15-year career in corporate leadership and organizational consulting. In her corporate career, Wendy achieved massive success, but when she got there, she felt exhausted and strangely empty. She learned to let go of old goals and old identities, redefine concepts of success, and learn entirely new ways of being a leader in the world. Wendy has described herself as a recovering achievement addict, and I know a lot of us can relate to that. Her experience from transitioning from dated ideas of what success and purpose mean inspired her to author the groundbreaking book, Regenerative Purpose. In this powerful book, Wendy uncovers how purpose is commonly experienced as egoic achievement and a personal badge of honor in the 3D. She explores the meaning of purpose in the 5D, which she describes as a constantly evolving frequency of collective co-creation that's guiding us to do our highest and best work. Today, Wendy will answer the question of what purpose looks like in the 5D and shed light on the common myths and misconceptions we hold around the concept of purpose in the 3D. In her talk, she will share her powerful process of soul purpose alignment so we can live with purpose and create a world of work that works for everyone. Please welcome Wendy May. It's an honor to have you here, Wendy. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, thank you. Wow, that was quite an introduction. I feel super blessed to be here and amazing after this amazing activation that we just had from Kathlena. Thank you so much. It's super fascinating to sit here and listen to all the different speakers because it really shows me how so many of us have really tapped into the same truth, the same universal truth, and we all have different ways and different words to describe it and different methods for bringing that to light and bringing that to share with each other. So that really kind of, for me, highlights this idea of regenerative purpose. So yeah, so my name is Wendy May, and I'm here to talk about regenerative purpose and why purpose is such a present question for us right now, given that we're going through this massive transition as humanity. A lot of us are really questioning what is our place in the world and what are we here to do in this incarnation. And, you know, the idea of purpose is not new, but I think that what we're seeing now is that our understanding of purpose is starting to shift. And actually all of the previous speakers have touched on different aspects of this. And Kathlena alluded to this as well. The idea that in 3D, we tend to treat purpose as something that's linear, logical, personal, goal-directed. The traditional purpose that we talk about often sounds like finding out, figuring out, discovering, diagnosing. And that's not necessarily wrong, but it's limiting and it's limited. It's quite contained. So when we start to understand purpose from a 5D perspective, it's no longer about an object. It's no longer about a form or something personal that we can ascribe to ourselves or own or even claim that we can call my purpose. And actually, I don't know if there's a way maybe I can share slides. Yeah, let me see. If not, that's okay. If you want to follow along with the visual for what I'm going to be discussing, you can go to my website and click on Regenerative Purpose, and there is an infographic there with all of the sort of visual expression of what I'm going to be talking about. But essentially the shift from 3D purpose to 5D purpose, what I'm calling regenerative purpose, is moving from this understanding of purpose being something that's personal, that we can grab for ourselves, and sort of add to our list of achievements, to something that is completely dynamic and co-created moment to moment. And we can understand it as a frequency, we can understand it as an experience, and that it's really something that is transpersonal. It's not something that we own, it's something that we access. And so then, that brings up the question, so how do we access regenerative purpose, right? Which is a complex question, which I'll do my best to try to answer in the next 25 minutes. But I think first and foremost, it's about cleaning and clearing our human vehicle to be available for purpose so that we can use these bodies that we've been given in service to higher purpose. It is about cleaning out all this debris, all of the accumulated junk that comes into our field that needs to be filtered and processed and digested through our system. So actively engaging in that process of cleaning on the physical, emotional, mental, spiritual, etheric levels, having practices where we're cleaning and clearing out our space, the space that our being is taking up, that we are the stewards of in this lifetime, requires active engagement in clearing space. The other core orientation is around devotional decision-making. So this has to do with setting boundaries around what we allow in, and it has to do with choosing direction in a way that's aligned with our values. So these two things to me are really the core. It's about dedicated space clearing and devotional decision-making. And if we are practicing those things on a day-to-day, moment-to-moment basis, what we will find is that we experience the frequency of being on purpose more and more as we're able to engage and participate in life from a place of presence and not from ego, not from a plan, not from a personal agenda, but rather discovering how we're nodes in this larger matrix, that we are interdependent and co-creating our reality all of the time, that there's really nothing that we're doing that's an independent action that isn't influenced by others that we're connected to, and there's nothing that we do that doesn't touch everyone else, right? So there's this circular, cyclical, interdependent process of evolution that's happening through each of us. I want to talk a little bit about the different dimensions of regenerative purpose and how they're different than conventional purpose. So some of you may be familiar with this model that is a 4-part Venn diagram that talks about the dimensions of purpose being what you love to do, what you're good at, what you can get paid for, and what the world needs. And the idea from a 3D perspective is that you solve for that equation and you find purpose in the middle of those 4 static categories. So when I developed this model of regenerative purpose, what I did was I basically expanded on all of these 4 dimensions to make them more multidimensional and fluid in time-space, not fixed and not personal, not static. So what that expansion looks like, I'll just go briefly through each of those dimensions of purpose, as I call them. The first one being what you're good at. So we typically think of purpose as being related to our skills and talents, right? The things that we know how to do and the things that we've been trained to do or we've developed some capacity in. The expanded notion of this dimension goes beyond what we're good at. So when I talk about gift, I call it genius in fluid truth. So it includes the conventional view of gift, which is our skills and talents, but it's much more expanded than that. It also includes our privileges and platforms, education, resources, perspectives, even traumatic or difficult life experiences that we've had, heartbreaks, bankruptcy, everything that we've experienced in this lifetime and previous lifetimes that make up the totality of what we bring to this life. And that's much more expanded than just what we're good at. And a lot of this also includes shadow integration, right? It includes looking at the parts of ourselves that may be traditionally shamed or shut down or hidden from view, and being able to see that those are also part of our collection of gifts, what we bring to share with each other, the medicine that we have, that we're carrying. In the category of what you love to do, the expanded notion of this is really around a movement of creative energy from the individual node to the collective node. So there's a process of energy moving out from the personal to the collective. And so in regenerative purpose, this dimension becomes creative flow. So it's no longer a category of just likes and preferences, things that we enjoy or find pleasurable. It's actually tapping into that place of true movement that comes from love, the true movement that is emergent in presence. And there's a playfulness and an innocence about this movement that's not goal-oriented. It feels much more experimental and responsive rather than reactive. So it's something where we do or we move or we say or we act from a place where we don't necessarily know the moment before what's going to come out. But it's more of a spontaneous, enlivening and enlightening participation in life. So instead of purpose being about what we love to do, it's about what we do from love. So there's that movement from the personal to the collective. Moving around the circle over to what we would traditionally have called what the world needs. So what the world needs is actually a mental projection, and it comes from ego. It comes from a savior mindset of, oh, the world needs something and here I am to give that. Well, if we take our ego out of it, we can start to recognize that this dimension of purpose, which is the collective element, is not really about what we think the world needs, which is a mental, mechanical product of our mind, but it's really about how we experience ourselves when we're in contact with the world. And what I call this is personally activating information, or pain for short. And this is the kind of pain that can create an aversive response. It's sort of an ouch response. But on a deeper level, it's the personally activating information that touches our heart. It's the part of us that is activated when we are in contact, fully unshielded and unprotected, and just in full contact with life. This is the personally activating information that comes through. So instead of thinking about what the world needs, it's about paying attention to our own unique sensitivity as we move about the world. This last dimension, which is what we get paid for, which is a very limited view of the return of energy. And this dimension is really about completing the cycle of energy flow. So this is where the collective energy is flowing back to the individual to feed and nourish and support and allow us to continue our work in the world. And that can be money or resource, but it's actually a much broader understanding of abundance, because abundance is not just money and resource. Abundance is also guidance, it's synchronistic connections, it's invitations to things like me being invited to talk on this conference. So it's that ever-present awareness of the benevolence of life that allows us to receive in multiple forms, not just money and resource, but in all of the ways that we're being guided and supported in life. We allow the collective energy to flow back to the individual node. So when we look at this as a full system, and it's a circle. So again, if you want to get the visual, you can download the infographic from my website. Sorry, I don't have a slide, but if you can visualize that there is an individual or a personal node, and there is a transpersonal or collective node, And these are poles. So our individual presence and soul expression is the positive, the plus pole. And this collective element, which we previously referred to as needs, but I'm referring to as the activating information that comes from the rest of the world, that's the negative pole, which is attracting our gifts. And this movement is natural. So this creative flow of energy that moves from us to the world, and this abundance energy that's moving from the world to us as individuals, is a natural process. It doesn't require an egoic sense of control or planning or an agenda. It is actually something that wants to move. It is a natural impulse and a spontaneous, impersonal process that's happening all of the time. So it's natural, but it's not automatic, I would say. And then our work becomes not trying to find or figure out our purpose from a 3D perspective, that linear, logical, goal-oriented purpose, but it becomes unblocking this flow and allowing this movement from the personal to the transpersonal, moving the creative energy outward and allowing the abundance energy to feed us. And the way that we can access that flow or unblock it, allow it to flow more freely, is by cultivating certain qualities within ourselves. So each one of these dimensions that I described, the gift, the pain or personally activating information, the creative flow, the abundance flow, in balance, they can be blocked by certain things and they can be unlocked by certain things. And a lot of this process has to do with deconditioning the training or the false information that we've been given and deleting those programs so that we can allow this movement of purpose to go through us. So for gift, the thing that blocks this genius in fluid truth from being expressed is what I call identity fixation. So this is the idea that we think we know who we are. We have a concept of ourselves as, I'm a strong person, I'm a wise person, I'm a helpful person, whatever it is, whatever kind of person that you think you are. This identity concept is something that we use to anchor ourselves in the three-dimensional space, but it's limiting when it comes to really being able to channel our full potential. We have to loosen the grip of that identity and be able to express ourselves through cultivating authenticity, which sometimes means bringing forth things that we feel might be judged or shamed by the world around us, especially as light workers and new paradigm pioneers. It's going to be uncomfortable actually to show up as our full self, to express our authentic truth. But that's part of the work. When it comes to the personally activating information or pain, it's really about being able to receive the signals that are meant for us, because there's a lot of noise and there's a lot of signal distraction or diversion that can happen. And when we can tap into the quality of attunement, it means selectively listening. Not listening to everything, because our systems will be completely flooded with irrelevant information. Cultivating attunement means not only knowing what to tune into, but also what to tune out, so that we can stay in our swim lane and focus our energy in the three-dimensional space with the limited time space that we have allocated to us in this human journey, to be able to use that with intention, without being distracted and diverted by all of the noise. When it comes to the creative flow, I alluded to this already a bit, but the way that we really tap into creative flow and allow that to really come out full force is by letting go of the programming of goal orientation. So when we're in a reaction, when we're acting from a program that we've been given, most of the time it's because we have something that we're trying to do. We have an agenda, we have a goal, We have an outcome in mind that we want. And this actually keeps us from being able to respond to what's really present in the moment. It keeps us from being able to move from love. So it's really shifting from this reactivity and this programmed response that's oriented towards a goal, and being able to cultivate this responsiveness, this childlike playfulness and experimentation, and just showing up and treating life as a game, and not taking any of it too seriously, not fearing failure, and being able to really respond to what life is showing us from that place. And this last one, with abundance flow, the quality that we need to cultivate to allow abundance flow to move freely is receptivity. And it sounds really simple, but actually there's so many things that can get in the way of receptivity. Our ideas around our own worthiness, pride, a sense of independence, simply not being aware of what is available to receive. And what really blocks receptivity, which is super strong in the culture of our 3D reality, is this myth of independence. It's the story we've been sold, where we've been told that we need to do it on our own, that we need to be self-sufficient, that we need to have our own house and our own car and our own sewing machine and everything, right? This idea that I need to be able to manage by myself. The story of separation, essentially. So getting ourselves to stop believing in that and stop subscribing to that, it's simple, but it's not easy, right? Because this is really, really deep programming around this myth of independence. And so part of regenerative purpose is really about accessing this ecological consciousness and this interdependence awareness that allows us to fully receive the guidance and support that's available to us through being a node in this fabric of reality, that we're not alone in doing any of this, and that we're all connected and co-creating all of this at the same time. So that's really important, because the 3D version of purpose is much more about personally building empires around me and mine. And the 5D version of purpose doesn't care about the individual actors, but it cares about the participation, right? So when we shift from the 3D version of purpose, which is concerned with building empires, and we move to 5D purpose, which is all about wave making, and we really embrace our role as water molecules in the wave, right? So it's not about getting recognition, it's not about validation, it's not about, your own business or success. It's about being part of something that's already happening. And the beauty in this is that it allows us to be both empowered in engaging in that, as well as completely relaxed, knowing that it's already happening. So it seems like a paradox, but this speaks to some of the points that have been raised by other speakers around this idea of, who am I to do that because other people are already doing it? Well, when you look at purpose as this frequency, as an experience that you want to engage in, it doesn't matter anymore if other people are doing it. That just goes to show that this movement is happening with or without you. And it doesn't matter what dimension we're talking about, if it's energy healing or environmentalism or, green energy. There's a movement that's already happening, and we can decide consciously and intentionally to contribute our life energy to that wave that is already moving. And also, we can rest when we need to rest. So this movement is already happening, and it's a beautiful thing. I feel affirmed and encouraged when I see other people spreading similar messages or doing similar work, because it means that it's happening already without me personally, Wendy, and if I need to take a nap, I can take a nap. And if I want to take part, I can take part. And I'm honoring my own seasons and cycles in the way that I'm participating in life and allowing myself to be in balance with how I'm using my life energy, how I'm engaging in the time space, and not depleting myself and not pushing too hard. But at the same time, not becoming passive and disengaged and nihilistic about, the end of the world, but knowing that there's a very crucial part that I play in that, and it's already happening. So there's a lot in the regenerative purpose model around the seasonality as well as the cyclical nature of purpose. I don't have time to go into all of that, but I do want to mention about this idea of balance, because in my view, conventional purpose or 3D purpose is very much overweighted onto building and growing. So again, back to this whole empire building thing, right? Most of the time, we hear people talking about purpose in terms of building a business, writing a book, creating a project, starting a nonprofit. It's all about the building, the creation, and the growth part of the cycle, which is beautiful, and it's amazing that we are in that movement of creation. And also, where we go astray is when we don't equally honor the cycles of death and rebirth. So regenerative purpose is named as such because it's in harmony with the cycles of nature, where death is just as important in terms of the process as birth, because you cannot have birth without death. And these two processes that are always happening in parallel simultaneously need to be in balance. And part of being able to engage in regenerative purpose means recognizing and embracing the death process when it's at our door. So this goes back to one of the first things that I said around purpose is not about the form. It's about a frequency that we feel, that we experience as we walk through life in this dimension. So part of attunement means also knowing when we're being signaled and guided to invite the death of something that we've created. When is it time to close a business, or to shut down an offering, or to change your focus, or to leave a marriage, or to quit a job, whatever it is. But there's also this conscious shedding and this intentional death process that is really important in the process of regenerative purpose, because that intentional death is the compost that creates the fertile ground for the next creation to emerge from. So this is, this is really important. Oh, and I see my time is almost up. So the last thing I want to share is just that we're really at a point now where, in terms of the hierarchy of moving from survival to self-actualization and self-transcendence, we're at a point in human history where self-transcendence is actually critical to our survival. When we talk about the story of humanity, this is the moment that we're in now, where the pyramid is turning into a circle, into a cycle. And our ability to be self-transcendent and get out of the egoic version of purpose is what is going to enable our survival collectively as humanity.
Thank you so much, Wendy. That was all beautifully said. And your definition of abundance as the ever-present awareness of the benevolence of life, allowing us to receive all the ways in which we are supported and guided in light. Oh, I got goosebumps when you said that. I wrote it down, and I'm going to keep that definition with me always. Thank you so much for being here with us. We're so grateful to have you.
Thank you.